As tonight is a special meeting, comments should be limited to the agenda business that's on before the village board tonight. If you're unfamiliar with public meetings of this nature, the comment period is for comment only. Absent extraordinary circumstances, a response to any specific comment should not be expected during the course of tonight's meeting. During the public comment period, we'll call upon members of the public who are attending to determine whether you desire to make a comment. It is not required that any individual comment during the meeting. If you desire to comment, you will be afforded an opportunity to do so. Please, however, wait until you're recognized before you begin your comment. We'd also request that you provide your name and address before you begin your comment. At the conclusion of the public comment period, our meeting administrator will mute all participants other than the village officials, since public participation during meetings is specifically limited to only the public comment period. Also, as a reminder, we do have rules of procedure in place for the length of your public comment. Public comment should be limited to 5 minutes per speaker. I'll keep track of that time, and I'll give you a warning as you approach your 5-minute mark, so you have an opportunity to wind up your comment within which the time limit's imposed by the board's rules. Thank you.
Okay, I'd ask the clerk to call the roll.
Lunier.
Here.
Leach.
Here.
Lehman.
Here.
Menold.
Here.
Newman.
Here.
Parrott.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Tonight we're here to address the ordinance adopting temporary regulations for outside dining. So at this time, I'm going to ask the legal counsel to explain that a little bit before we go into public comment. Pat, if you would.
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. The ordinance that's before the board tonight, I will summarize. The ordinance is publicly available, as well as some informational sheets, but to aid in public understanding before comment, I will provide a synopsis of some of the key points from that ordinance. My summary is not intended to be an exhaustive summary of every single inclusion, but rather major points for awareness. A permit is required for outdoor dining areas, which are being created pursuant to the governor's order. If you had an existing outdoor dining area before May 20th, 2020, you're not required to obtain a new permit. Outdoor dining areas are to be located on land owned or leased by the business, including land adjacent or contiguous to the business premises, or on public sidewalk. If the dining or drinking area is to be on public sidewalk, it shall not encroach upon any required ADA access or any business, and it should leave a 5-foot width of unobstructed sidewalk. And there should also be, preserved 5-foot strip. Outdoor dining areas that are in off-street private parking lots should be situated so that there's still a sufficient path of 20 feet in width for vehicular traffic for cars using the parking lot. Any outdoor dining area on a public sidewalk where alcohol is not served would have to be enclosed by a fence or other similar barrier to mark off that area of at least 3 feet in height. Ingress and egress should be into the outdoor dining area directly on an area of that has public street frontage. Patrons can enter businesses to use restroom facilities while maintaining social distancing. Businesses are asked to install signage to help direct the public on where to enter and on paths for restroom and for exits. Businesses are to provide a hostess or greeter or other employee for controlling access and seating at the outdoor dining area. If tents are to be used, fire chief should be consulted for permitting requirements pursuant to the 2015 International Fire Code, which is in place and adopted by the village. And the tent, the enclosed sides of the tent while the outdoor dining area is in use should not enclose more than 50% of the outside perimeter of the tent. Tables in outdoor dining areas should be situated at least 6 feet apart pursuant to the DCEO guidelines, and occupancy limited to 15 net square feet per person. Smoking is prohibited under the terms of the ordinance in outdoor dining areas. People waiting to be seated should wait outside of the dining area and maintain social distancing. Outdoor dining areas should be closed during severe weather events. Wait staff should be used for outdoor dining areas. Animals are not permitted in outdoor dining areas. Trash receptacles should be provided. Noise ordinances established and existing for the village shall continue in effect. And for outdoor dining areas where liquor is to be served, liquor licenses are required. We have 3 existing liquor licenses that cover outdoor service. So the proposed ordinance would continue to require licensing. Open alcoholic containers wouldn't be permitted in the inside of liquor license holders' businesses. So alcohol would have to remain in the outdoor dining area. Existing permitted outdoor dining and drinking areas for existing liquor license holders can be expanded only with approval of the village. Location requirements, the village code should continue to apply. Fencing requirements for the liquor license holders for their temporary outdoor dining or drinking areas are relaxed, requiring a fence of at least 4 feet in height without substantial restrictions on the size of openings in that fence. Again, for liquor license holders, just like restaurants and businesses without liquor license holders, ingress and egress should be maintained through directly into the outdoor dining area and not through the business itself. Similar provisions apply, as I've already covered, for the bars, for other restaurants as well, in terms of severe weather, noise, trash receptacles, animals, wait staff, and the like. So those are major points from the ordinance. The ordinance as prepared would last until July 31st, 2020, and certainly at the will of the board, it could be extended if circumstances at that time or near that time would lead the board to believe it would be prudent to extend it. Otherwise, the provisions of the ordinance expire July 31st, 2020, and at that time, existing liquor license holders who have outdoor permits would be continued to have permission to operate what existed before this ordinance, but the temporaries would end unless a permanent license were to be issued. So, Your Honor, that's the summary I would provide per your request prior to the public comment.
All right, thank you. We would open it up now to public comments.
And if I may, as I have in other meetings, helped steer the public comment. I know Leanne Brown had indicated to village staff before the meeting that she would like to address the board during public comment. So if Your Honor doesn't mind my interjection, I would suggest Leanne could start, and then after Leanne's comment concludes, I'll go around like we have before and seek out others who may desire to comment. So Leanne?
That's fine.
Wonderful. Good evening, everyone. Leanne Brown with the Morton Chamber of Commerce and Economic Development Council. Good to see some faces I haven't seen in a while on here. So exciting day tomorrow as we've been waiting for this day to start to safely open some additional businesses. A lot to still figure out, a lot of unknowns. But we continue to share information. So on the reopening guidelines, if you need signage, we have posted those resources on our chamber and EDC website. But tonight I also wanted to share additional funding was released again today. About a month ago, we worked through the Downstate Small Business Stabilization Grant. This is federal dollars that were issued to the state of Illinois. They are typically HUD related dollars that they were able to modify to help support non-essential businesses. So we have sent this out. We have emailed out our network, our chamber network. We have posted it to our social media, and there's a direct link on our chamber website. But I wanted to highlight a few eligibility areas. So those that are eligible, the deadline to apply is Friday, June 5th. So I'll read through a few of the guidelines here, and I would be happy to connect with anybody afterwards to walk through the process and detailed guidelines. So this is directed towards downstate non-essential businesses that were forced to close due to the governor's stay-at-home March executive order. The only exception is for bars and restaurants. So we are focused on non-essential businesses, but bars and restaurants are eligible. Businesses that could have remained open and had the ability to work remotely are ineligible. So this again is focused on non-essential businesses that had to close except for bars and restaurants. So the key measure there is your eligibility will be based on the month of April, based on that executive order of stay at home or shelter in place, whatever term you want to use. Businesses, so business owners have to employ at least one additional full-time employee. This can be a combination of employees, so it can be multiple part-time to equate, but it has to be the business owner plus one, whether that's the plus one of full-time or plus one of multiple part-time. The business must have been in operation with the same ownership since January 1st of 2017. The same in operation, same ownership since January 1st, 2017. The goal of these grant dollars, which are up to $25,000, is to make funds available for 60 days of working capital. So it is a grant up to $25,000 to cover 60 days of working capital. The costs incurred that would be eligible would be after the grant is awarded. So we have a deadline of Friday, June 5th. And then approximately 7 to 10 days after that, we will move through the public hearing process in partnership with Tazewell County to approve the grants. And Tazewell County will be submitting the grant to the state of Illinois. Once they're submitted, the DCEO, Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity, they say that they need 30 days to review the grants to award approval. So we, the first round, we had 20 Morton businesses that applied, and we have not, those have not been awarded. So if you applied in the first round, you just need to let that process ride out. If you did not apply in the first round, and you meet those eligibility of a non-essential business, you have an employee, you've been in operation since January 1st of 2017 is the same ownership, we can get you in the second round. So again, the detailed application is on our website. We've emailed that out, and we assisted all those businesses in the first round that applied, and would be happy to assist businesses through this grant application. There is an online portal system that helps walk you through each step, and we are here to help along the way to make sure you have the right information submitted. Once all the applications are submitted, we have an opportunity to review them We will review them in detail and reach out to any business that we need modified information to make a complete application. So we've been through round one, so we know what this looks like. So we can help you along the way. It's federal dollars allocated to the state. So there are required processes that they have to follow. One to note is the financials that you have to submit, which is your working capital budget from January of this year, and also your latest bank statement with redacted account information. Those two pieces will become a public document. So just know that in advance, that you will have to put out there from January of this year, and your latest bank statement financials that will become a public document.
Okay, well, thank you, Leanne. Appreciate that. I know we had a lot of success in the first round talking to Tazewell County, so hopefully
Yes.
several businesses will apply.
Yeah, we look forward to helping more through the process and hopefully hearing soon on the first round. So thank you.
Yep, so I encourage them to call the chamber office and get that help that they need. So moving on to the ordinance 21-01, adopting temporary regulations for outdoor dining and restaurants. Do we have a motion to approve?
Your Honor, if I may, before we do so,
Yep.
I know I offered,
I
was
forgot
hoping to hear the
public.
comment. I think we should make sure nobody else in the public desires to be heard. So
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm looking at my notes. Go ahead.
you're okay. If there's anybody else present who would like to address the board, if you could make me aware of your intent to do so. You can either unmute your microphone or you can raise your hand if you know how to do that in Zoom, or if you have video, you can wave your hand at me to draw my attention, but we'll wait a minute to see if anybody wants to be heard. I see Teresa raised her hand, so I go ahead, if Your Honor doesn't mind me doing so, and recognize her for
Nope,
comment.
go ahead.
Hi. So I guess I have questions. A lot of things have been explained, so I think I'm pretty good on what you're wanting from us. But are you going to go over these in detail, and are we supposed to be asking questions during this meeting, or is that just what it is, and then you go on to your regular board meeting? That makes
Well,
sense.
what kind
Are
of
you-
questions do you have?
Are you going to any of these in detail, or is that what you just went over right now, and that's the end of that, and you're going on to your regular board meeting? Are we discussing anything else when it comes to this?
Our council explained it, and then the trustees will discuss it amongst them. So if you have a question you want addressed, I would address the questions, and maybe the trustees can address it during their discussion.
Okay.
If I may jump in there to aid as well, certainly village staff is available outside of the meeting to answer questions as well, specific to any, individual businesses or circumstances. But now would be your opportunity if you have a question you want to put before the board. And as I mentioned at the start, there's not an obligation for that to be answered. But if you have a question you want to present or a comment to present, now is your guaranteed time to be able to do so before the board acts.
Right. Okay, so you mentioned public sidewalk, right? Did you say we can or cannot use a public sidewalk?
It all depends, I'm sure, the location, but what other questions do you have? And we'll try to address them.
Okay. I think that was one of the questions I had here. And like if we have takeout, still, I believe I got the okay, and I want to make sure it's clear that I can have people come in the front door, a separate door for my takeout, as long as I keep the other people out back. Is that correct?
The provisions of this ordinance are specific only to the outdoor dining and drinking areas.
Okay.
They will not apply to carry
Gotcha.
out.
Okay. All right. Well, then the public sidewalk question of this, you can address later, I guess, or I can talk to Julie about it.
Okay.
Okay, that's all I have.
All right, thank you.
there anybody else? I see another hand raised, JT. So I recognize JT for comment.
Hey, thanks, Pat. Hey, it's John Thomas from the Forge Steakhouse. Thanks, everybody. Hey, just a couple of things. I'll try to make this quick. First, I know you guys kind of got this dropped in your lap, surprisingly, by the governor, and then didn't have a lot of time to pull things together. On top of that, you were kind of waiting as the Tazewell County Health Department made some decisions regarding whether they were going to put any additional restrictions on. So appreciate the fact that you put this together. It's problematic for us, of course, that it's being ratified here at the last minute, but I know you guys are under a tight schedule. I did want to recognize and the efforts of Julie and Chiefs Kelly and Hilliard. Julie was actually very, very helpful in helping us kind of get the permit and everything pulled together. And without even me placing a phone call, both of the chiefs, visited our location today and talked to me specifically about any shortcomings that we had. So greatly appreciate that. The one thing that I want to pose to all of you related to this and going forward kind of is something that you can kind of hear in Teresa's questions and also in some of the comments that Greg made in the last board meeting that some of us were in attendance. What I think is missing here is a little bit of a back and forth where we can bounce questions off of each other and off of you as leaders in the community. And so I know that in this part, this is a comment section, but I'd like you guys to consider maybe doing a town hall meeting with local business owners where we have some Q&A and a little bit of a back and forth with you. Over Zoom is fine, of course, as we also continue to practice social distancing. But even as we get into these next few days for us as restaurant and bar owners, we are inevitably going to run up against some questions. And so if there's something that we could do, and I don't think it has to be every week, but if we could do it, within the next week and then maybe on an as-needed basis moving forward, where we have a chance for a little bit of back and forth with you, I think that would be very beneficial for all of us. So again, thank you for your efforts thus far. Greatly appreciated. We're excited to get back at it tomorrow. And hope that it goes well. And again, the help that you've given has been fantastic. But I think that it's some more opportunity for us to have a little bit of a back and forth with you instead of just this typical, comment section and no real opportunity for us to interact as a group. I think is needed. So thank you very much.
Thank you, John. Any other members of the public who desire to be heard, either raise your hand or on the virtually or unmute your microphone, and do my best to see to recognize you. Not at this point seeing anybody else unmuted who hasn't. Oh, I'm sorry. Greg, I see you unmuted, so I'll recognize you.
Name is Greg Boldy again. Thank you again for everybody that's here. I just want to piggyback on what JT was saying. Transparency and communication is vital during this pandemic, and I understand that sometimes we're up against deadlines and parameters by the governor, but we've got to think ahead and we've got to really think outside the box in some cases. Some businesses that have mentioned to me is maybe suggesting a citizen advisory board. Again, piggybacking on what JT was saying, is to come together, and whether this pandemic is long-term or whatnot, we can meet monthly and discuss certain topics that are affecting this community. Recently, I'm not sure if everyone has seen Seasons Gastropub's statement. That's just one business out of the community that is struggling. And while I'm not that business and I'm not going to speak for them, as a citizen of Morton, it's troubling that there are businesses like this that aren't maybe confident enough to speak up, that feel like their hands are tied and they've thrown their hands up in the air. So maybe more transparency, more communication, more empathy. Any kind of communication is helpful, regardless if you don't have all the answers. Trust me, I'm not the expert, but whatever information I do have, and I appreciate Leanne from Chamber saying that with the $25,000 grant, if there were any questions, that the Chamber would step up and help them, but also maybe mention that on the social media. Don't just list a website, because that could be troublesome for some businesses to navigate. Say, hey, we'll step up and we'll help you. But those are my comments for tonight.
Thank you for your comments. Anybody else desire to be heard before we close the public comment period? Hearing, seeing none, I would suggest, Your Honor, that you could conclude the public comment period and move forward with board action.
Okay, I'd like to address the transparency and communication. Right now, Julie and the staff are thinking outside the box. We're kind of moving with this. We're hoping the governor would open things up. The chamber has been great on helping businesses. We had more businesses than any other community in Tazewell County apply for the grant money. We have a large proportion of that first 1.3 million. I think we got like 40% of it they recommended. And as far as Seasons Gastro Pub, they're not opening probably till July. I've talked to the owner. So that was a personal decision. They're just not opening up to outside seating at the time being. So they've addressed their situation. They got other things going. So they will be opening later on. So we're trying to work with each business. I know John Thomas was down here at the Village Hall today. The lobby is now open. So anybody that got questions, because there's constant questions on it. So the staff, that's a priority to get these restaurants and the outside dining. And the police chief and the assistant chief were both in here today when I was. So we're all readily available to help get that going for the time being. So moving from that, I would look now to the trustees for ordinance 21-1, ordinance adopting temporary regulations for outdoor dining and restaurants. If we could have a motion, please.
Parrot, move to approve. Brad, second.
Okay. Is there any comments or questions? And Pat, at the end of this, I'd like you to address the sidewalks and maybe the police chief, what we've been doing with sidewalks.
I have one, Parrot here. I have one comment. I noticed on there, and Pat, I apologize I didn't catch this before, the $20 fee for the outdoor liquor license. Can we, being a temporary license, I mean, I realize it's only $20, but to try to do what we can to make this easier for businesses, can we waive that fee?
If the board were to direct that's the way you would like the ordinance prepared, we can make that change. The idea, the ordinance was prepared after extensive collaboration with various village staff members. The fee was calculated on the theory that we do have existing Class E liquor license holders, and the rate they pay for their license is $10 a month. And so to make things equal in our treatment of those who have beer gardens year-round and those who have temporary beer gardens, we structured the fee so that it would match on a per-month basis what your other liquor license holders are now paying. So that's a rationale for the $20, but if the board doesn't desire that fee, that can be stricken from the ordinance.
Well, and that makes sense to make it fair across the board. I was trying to, if it was a fee in addition, but if that's what others that already have that license are paying, then I see that as acceptable.
We prorated it. Julie's been prorating those rates.
And if I may, requested my explanation on the sidewalks. The proposed ordinance makes no change for the liquor license holders on the location requirements contained in the provisions of the village code. There are 3 licenses that permit outdoor service. One is a special event license. The Class I license, I believe, is the type of license you would have to have for sidewalk service, and that's a beer and wine only license. And so liquor license, there is an avenue for sidewalk service for liquor license holders. if you had an existing Class E license and you wanted to expand onto the sidewalk, that you need to work with village staff on ensuring you have appropriate licensure and that you're operating within the confines of your license classification, because there are differences between the Class E and the Class I. Class E does not include sidewalks. And Class C is your traditional beer garden style liquor license. And I believe, and Julie, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe all of our existing liquor license holders with outdoor beer garden or beer garden style facilities have a Class E.
Correct. And one other thing, the Class I license only goes with an A2. Is that right, Chief? Which is only the beer, you know, the
A3.
establishment.
A3, Julie.
A3, okay.
Yeah.
The establishment
which
could
is beer
only
and wine
sell
only.
beer and wine, yeah. So it's not meant, the A1 is, or the I license isn't meant for a full bar, basically. It's only for beer and wine. Unless you want to change it.
Was there also a question about the 5-foot sidewalk distance? I thought I heard Teresa ask about that, but does that need clarified?
I think she clarified it. Julie, you've been very clear, so thank you very much for what you've done with me. You said the A3 beer and wine is a license I, which I don't have, so I have the E.
Right.
So I think I understand what you're saying. So I'll come in and ask you questions if I need to. You've been helpful so much. Thank you.
Okay, and one other thing, we're not going to open our office till Monday, so, but, you know, just give me a call and I'll come. I can either come to someone or you can come to the office and I'll meet you outside or whatever we need to do.
Thank you so much.
We can open the lobby and discuss. We got to get through the next couple of days, so whatever everybody needs and questions, it's a top priority to the staff. So call ahead or knock. We'll figure it out.
I would like to thank the staff for the extra efforts they put in, you know, getting this. I mean, this has been a quick turnaround and not based upon our, you know, delays, but based upon late information coming from the governor's office. You know, it's the staff has worked very hard in trying to turn this around and trying to help businesses get this figured out. And if you have questions, call the village. If you can't get a hold of the village, call us, the trustees, and we will help you get this figured out. It's a priority for all of us to get people open back up.
And I'd like to add, if any of the business owners out there know someone else, because I was kind of surprised at the number of, or the lack thereof, of applications we've gotten for new or expanded outdoor areas. So if anybody knows somebody that's thinking about doing that, make sure they give us a call. You know, like I said, I'll be in there at 8 o'clock in the morning, and hopefully we can get everybody, you know, application looked at and get the inspections done and everything so they can do whatever they're planning on doing at noon or at supper or whatever they're planning. So.
And Trustee Menold, you mentioned a question on how the sidewalks figured. It's the village's intent and permit review to measure the 5 foot of sidewalk from back of curb. So there has to be a 5 foot strip measured from the back of curb.
Any other comments?
Your Honor.
If not, call the roll.
No, Your Honor.
Yeah, go ahead, Steve.
I'd like to ask counsel, what happens to this ordinance if the state says that Region 2 has regressed? Does this ordinance automatically get canceled or what?
That would require new legislative action. So this ordinance is effective at 10 a.m. tomorrow and continues through July 31st. If circumstances change in either direction, either that require an expansion of the reduction in the restrictions, or circumstances change that require, the elimination of this as an available option, that would require new legislation from the board.
And then the next thing, I guess, looking at the termination date of July 31st, we have a board meeting on Monday, August 3rd. I wonder if it would behoove us to change the date to August 4th so we wouldn't have to have another special meeting. Your thought, Council?
I have no objection to that suggestion.
Okay, well, I'd make a motion that we change the termination date from July 31st, 2020 to August 4th, 2020.
Parrott will second that motion.
Okay.
Procedural clarification. So an amendment was proposed and seconded. And so the vote is on the amendment, and that would amend the action before the board. And then we'd return to the original motion once the amendment is acted on.
Okay. So has anybody got any other comments? All right, then let's call the roll on the amendment motion.
Leach,
Yes.
Lehman,
Yes.
Menold,
Yes.
Newman,
Yes.
Parrott,
Yes.
Blunier.
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, now if we could have a vote on the original motion.
Lehman,
Yes.
Menold,
Yes.
Newman,
Yes.
Parrott,
Yes.
Blunier,
Yes.
Leach.
Yes.
Motion passes as well.
Well, finally, we got the restaurants and the dining opened, nail salons, beauty shops, barbers, gyms, retail shops. So thank goodness the governor's seen some daylight. It's been hectic for the staff, but really encourage any business that needs help. Julie, Craig, the police chief, fire chief, we will get you what you need and the info. They're readily available. And it is, like Trustee Parrott said, it is a top priority to help you out the next couple of days to get this the way you want it. So any other comments or concerns the trustees have?
I'd just like to say thanks to the community for joining each time, for expressing your opinions. And as everyone has said, they're working so hard to bring this community back up to where we've been, maybe a notch above the other communities, the way we're approaching it. So thanks to Brad and Pat and Jeff and Nate. Nate's had a lot of input into this as well. So just know that they're a phone call away and they're doing their best for you.
With that, could we have a motion for adjournment?
I move we adjourn, Mel.
Parrott, second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Meeting's adjourned.